5-Minute Habits for Healthy Living. This week's habit is practice effective parenting. Hello, this is Dr. Brian Morris, and welcome to 5-Minute Habits for Healthy Living, where you will learn the tools to practice a healthy lifestyle 5 minutes at a time. I've been practicing internal medicine for 20 years. I went to medical school at Johns Hopkins, I trained at Yale, and I previously held a teaching position at Harvard Medical School. I currently practice medicine and hold a teaching appointment at UCLA Medical School here in Los Angeles, where I teach these habits to medical students, house staff, doctors, and of course, to my patients. Before we get to this week's habit, I'd like to remind you that the information contained in this podcast and at 5minutemd.com is intended solely for educational purposes and should not be used to diagnose, treat, or prevent any health condition or illness. This information may not apply to a specific health situation and is not a substitute for medical care by a qualified, licensed, board-certified healthcare professional. Please consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your healthcare regimen. On this week's episode, let's discuss one of the most important jobs that we will ever have, parenting. Now, some of you may be thinking that you're not a parent, and you may have no plans to ever be a parent. Well, this still applies to you because just about every single one of us will have some parenting role in our lifetime. Perhaps it's a niece or a nephew or a friend's child. Somewhere along the line, we will all parent. We all will have an impact on the next generation, on the children that will one day grow up to be adults. And there is nothing more important than this. Why? Because the impact that we have on our children or anyone else that we parent has exponential effects on the world. Why? Because our child will impact many other people in his or her lifetime. And each of these people will affect many other people. So the impact that we have on our child will have far-reaching effects on the world. And I would argue that this has far-reaching effects on the health of our society and our world. So I consider parenting to be an important health habit. Now, this is not a parenting podcast, so I'm not going to review tons of different parenting tools and strategies, but I will give you one bit of parenting advice that I consider to be the single most important parenting strategy that I know. This is what I have learned from 20 years of medical practice and raising a large family. This may sound simple, but it is the most helpful parenting strategy I know. Children learn from watching us, from observing what we do, how we act, how we deal with situations, how we treat people, what we say and what we don't say, how we deal with the good times and the bad times, how we deal with seemingly minor events, as well as how we deal with major life challenges. Most parenting books spend chapter after chapter teaching tools for how to deal with tantrums, how to deal with ADHD, how to deal with all the possible behaviors that children display. These books teach us what to say to rectify every possible behavioral issue that can arise. The truth is that children learn very little from what we say. Scary, huh? They don't learn that much when we tell them to tie their shoes or brush their teeth or say thank you. These things can help a little bit, but not as much as we think. Children tend to learn from watching us, from observing us. If you want your children to say thank you and show kindness to others, then make sure that they see you saying thank you and showing kindness to others. If you want your children to eat healthy foods, well, then make sure that they see you making good nutritional choices. If you don't want your kids to curse, then make sure that they never see you curse. Children learn from watching us, and they learn these lessons quietly, subtly, in the background. They may not seem to be learning these lessons, but they do. Trust me, they're learning. They're watching you. They're learning how to deal with situations by modeling after you. And they're learning what makes healthy adult relationships by watching how the adults around them get along or don't get along. These are the relationship models that they have, and these relationships will stick with them in their minds as they grow up and begin to have relationships of their own. They will likely find themselves with friendships like the ones they saw growing up. They will likely have love relationships like the ones that they saw growing up. So if you want to teach your children well, then worry less about what you tell them and more about being the kind of person you want them to become. Of course, there is still some value in what we tell our children, but how we act, especially in their presence, has the most impact on how they develop and the people that they will be when they grow up. Think about this. Your kids are watching. Practice effective parenting. In order to practice effective parenting, be the kind of person that you want your kids to be. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you do. Be careful how you model behavior. Practice effective parenting by modeling the kind of person that you want your kids to become. Let's keep the dialogue going. Let me know what you think of this week's Habit for Healthy Living. Post your comments and your experiences on the 5 Minute MD Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at Brian Morris MD and visit us anytime at 5minutemd.com. Let your friends know about the podcast and make sure that you are subscribed on iTunes. When you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, you will receive new podcast episodes as soon as they are posted. If you're finding the information on this podcast helpful, you may want to check out these episodes as well. And lastly, if you have a few minutes, stop on by iTunes and leave our podcast a review. Thank you so much for listening, and remember to make today count. I will see you at the next 5.